All right, well, this is the May 17, 2011 Mason City City Council meeting. Just a few notes here before we start. For the public, we've had a few comments on packet availability. You can go to masoncity.net, click on your government up on the top left, put on the mayor and council, and you can find the packets there by date, and it's available for the entire public. Before we start the meeting, the last week has been full of sorrow for our council. A week ago, a family member of Councilwoman Solberg in Anderson was unfortunately killed going to school. And a few days later, the wife of Councilmember Marsters, Janine, passed away after being diagnosed with leukemia 22 years ago and a courageous battle with her health. Passings are very different but offer a similar reflection. One family tragically didn't have a chance to see the future or the ability to say one last tearful goodbye. The other family had the opportunity and seized it to the fullest. And they developed her and her family's future and was able to say goodbye on her own terms. Life is short. Live life to the fullest. Seize every day and make the most of every opportunity. Janine Marsters and Caden Halverson are both mourned by this mayor and this council, and our sympathies and our prayers are with both families. So we'll call the meeting to order. Let the record reflect Mr. Marsters is absent this evening. All of the members are present. Is there a motion and a second to adopt the agenda excluding items 1 and 14? 1 is the Lion Energy efficiency rebate. We'll have that presentation at the next meeting. And number 14, I believe, is the asbestos, structural feasibility for egg lock. My apologies. Do you have a motion and a second with the exception of 1 and 14?
I make a motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We'll move here to the public forum. Mayor and council welcome comments from the public. On agenda items only during the public forum here. Ask you your name, address, and the agenda item that you will be speaking to, and you'll have 5 minutes. The clock is right in front of the podium. Terry?
Hi there, Jeff Tierney, 16025 300th Street, Mason. Talking about my driveways that they seem to don't want to keep. I would like to request that my driveways get saved in some sort of form to access off of Federal. I'd really like to keep them there. Dollar General and I both feel the same. Dollar General has been a tenant of mine for almost 7 years now. They like having the driveways, the accessibility, works really well for the people that use it, deliveries, etc. I'll just go through a few of the thoughts for the reasons I think they should stay and we think we should keep them there. I didn't really write anything up, so turnover on in front of the building there. There's always cars going in and out of that specific area. Most people stay in Dollar General 20, 30 minutes, including the Abstract Company, which is further down. You know, so everybody in that area is rotating. They want to move the driveway to 3rd Street. Everybody on 3rd Street that parks there normally stays. It's Marshall Swift, College, everybody kind of just stays put. Most of those cars are there 8, 9 hours a day, which creates a problem if you're pulling out of that driveway to see who's coming. So that's a pretty major concern. When they pull out on Federal, the cars are rotating. You got a chance there's somebody there, but most of the time there's not somebody there. So that's one of the reasons. Delivery trucks, they won't be able to come in off the 3rd. Even if we give them a nice big driveway with cars parked on both sides, it's tough for a guy to get in there with a tractor trailer. Even a short one, it's tough to get in and out. Now they pull in the 2nd driveway, they unload next to the building normally. They kind of back up so they're not blocking the driveway entrances. Cars can still get in and out. And then they unload out the back, and they're not really interrupting the day-to-day procedure of the store. I mean, everything's still working fine. They can't use the back of the store for security reasons. They don't want people in and out of the back. They don't want them locked, so that doesn't really work as an option. They've got to come in the front. without the driveways there, the only option they're going to have is double parking every time they unload. Peggy tells me it's about 4 to 6 trucks a day, pretty much on a regular basis. We're talking Coke, Pepsi, Wonder Bread. I mean, it's even UPS and FedEx, they're delivering all the time there. So I think that's pretty major concern. Next concern is parking lot maintenance. You know, sometimes it snows during the day, and we've got to be doing the snow removal there during the day. How they want to create it, well, it's kind of a C, so I'll have to be backing up the whole time we're doing snow removal. So I'll be watching for people walking in and out of there. And it's a busy store. There's a lot of people in and out there. So, I mean, there's kind of a hazard for me backing into somebody, let alone a person or a car. I'm concerned about both. I know a lot of times it does happen when there's not, you know, it's in the morning when there's nobody there, but it does happen. Snow does happen during the day when they're open. So that's one of my other concerns. One of them brought up was the handicap accessibility. I know people aren't supposed to jaywalk across the street. They're supposed to use designated walkways. I understand that. A lot of times, though, people park in front of the building, they'll want to get into the store that are handicapped, and they need to have an access. So if the new plan, they're going to have to go up the curb. They're going to have to jump the curb, or walk down to the end of the block, all the way around, and then come back. Doesn't seem practical. Doesn't seem practical for Dollar General. And that also includes the delivery guys. They're going to have to be dragging their stuff up over the carts instead of now when they just roll it. They don't have any curbs or anything to jump over. They just roll them into the store out of convenience. So that's another concern we've got. People come over from the manor. I know they should be using the walkways, but it's right there. It's Mesa City. So that's going to happen. They're going to come across that way. So I've been consistently telling Dollar General when the project's going to be done. I know none of you guys have control over when it's going to be done, but I feel like I'm kind of starting to look like a liar if I tell them this date and it doesn't happen, and I tell them this date and it doesn't happen. And this is just one more thing that I get to say, hey, here, now we're going to take your driveways away too. It just doesn't seem like you're trying to foster good relationships with a good tenant downtown. I think they're a great tenant downtown. I think they bring a lot of benefit to downtown. I think they should stay. I hope they stay. I know one of the concerns is it's not uniform. I just can't see why one driveway, even one driveway being there would be that much out of the realm. I understand we have to not have the pavers in that one spot or something like that. I understand that, but it doesn't seem like it's completely out of it. I kind of walked off the spacing on the poles and everything today. The center pole almost ended up exactly in front of her door, which is kind of weird too. But the spacing seems like it would work for a driveway still there. I mean, even if it's not both driveways, it still seems like it's workable. It seems like we should have some flexibility in it, I guess, so to maintain.
Mr. Chairman.
I see my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much for coming. Anybody else? Ms. Crawford.
Hello, good evening. My name is Carrie Crum, and I live at 1644 North Federal. And I'm here in support of utilizing some of the flood buyout for dog park. Most people that I've spoke with are like me, and they're in support of the dog park. They're for it, and they're really, really excited. There has been some criticism, and I respect everyone's opinion to criticize the dog park, but I feel like some of that is coming from people that haven't been educated into what actually a dog park is and why it benefits everyone in the community, whether they have a dog or not. A dog park provides a place, a safe place, for a dog to exercise and play off leash. It's in a controlled environment with a fence that prevents the dog from running off into traffic, and also provides, protects people getting contact with the dog if they're not dog people. A dog park is aesthetically pleasing like any other park. They have benches for people, shade on hot days, made of grass, dirt, gravel, places for dogs to dig. They also have walking paths around the inside of the perimeter for people to get exercise while their dogs are playing, or for their dogs to walk alongside of them. A dog park provides water, adequate drainage, areas to dispose of animal waste, and some of the criticism is people don't pick up their dog's waste. And everybody's seen people walking their dog and not picking up their dog's business. but I'm telling you from someone that's visited dog parks, that there's a lot of peer pressure and there's a lot of regulation within the dog parks. And if you have 7 other people that are there with their dogs, and if your dog does its business, it's going to get picked up. The way other cities have regulated their dog parks is they provide a dog tag that is easily identified. To obtain one of those dog tags, you would fill out an application. On the application, you would show your veterinarian's name, phone number, and the list of your vaccinations. After that has been approved, you would then be qualified to purchase a dog tag, say for $20. That $20 fee would then go towards upkeeping of that dog park. People from out of town would also be able to purchase, say, a day pass off the internet, and say for $5 would be able to acquire a day pass to visit our park. The Des Moines Dog Park, right now, they have a person that periodically checks the dog park to make sure that there is a dog tag, just to kind of quality check, kind of like if you would get checked with like a fishing license to make sure that the dog park rules are being followed. Also, a lot of people that are at the dog park, if you see your dog playing with a dog that does not have that tag, they're going to self-check themselves because they don't want a dog that isn't necessarily up to date on their vaccinations. Dogs that receive regular exercise are less likely to bark, and they're less likely to just destruct property. And those are 2 other complaints. I think people who are making those complaints about dogs are the same people that are making complaints about dog park, and I think we need to realize that one is the solution of the other. Taking dogs to a dog park will socialize your dog and make it more social to dogs as well as people, and less likely to bite. Nobody likes to hear a story about dogs biting, but actually statistics show that those are unsocialized dogs, and there are more accidents on at a park than there are in a dog parks last year. What I'd like to say to the council is that I'd like them to start a fund that people can go to raise money and kind of dedicate a little pool so we will be able to, raise funds for a fence, garbage cans for the waste, water, have you. I'd really like to see Mason City be that town. Our closest place is Rochester, I think Cedar Falls, and Des Moines that has a dog park. What would happen if Mason City was that town that people went to? Just think of the tourism. People would stay in this town, which is the town next door, because we had a dog park. Or people that would come from, Rockford to Garner just to take their dog to a dog park. So thank you, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Crump. All right. All right, well, seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. I'll read that first, and then we'll see what we need pulled here. Number 2, minutes, regular special closed minutes of May 3rd, 2011. 3 claims. 4, unaudited financial report. 5, permits. Number 6, administrator recommending approval acceptance of the civil service list for firefighter and EMTs. Number 7, administrator recommending approval of authorization to request RFPs for traffic and street sign GPS project. Number 8, administrator recommending approval resolution levying assessments for charges on certain properties and certification of same to county treasurer for collection. Number 9, administrator recommending approval resolution authorizing a contract amendment number 1 with WHKS for additional services related to the South Delaware Avenue Bridge over Willow Creek replacement project. Number 10, administrator recommending approval resolution approving the recommendation of the flood buyout appeals panel to increase the pre-flood fair market value of 1021 3rd Street Northeast in conjunction with the flood of 2008. Number 11, administrator recommending approval resolution authorizing a contract amendment with Kelly Demolition LLC of Mount Vernon, Iowa for additional asbestos testing and abatement monitoring related to the city's flood buyout programs. Number 12, administrator recommending approval resolution authorizing a contract amendment with McKinnis Excavating of Mason City, Iowa to approve additional demolition services related to the city's flood buyout programs. Number 13, administrator recommending approval. Resolution authorizing a contract amendment with Burgo Construction, Inc. for the mothballing of 11 historic structures acquired through FEMA's hazard and mitigation grant program to include 2 attached accessory structures at 655 7th Street Northeast. And number 15, administrator recommending approval resolution authorizing notice to bidders and fixing amount of bid security, and ordering clerk to publish notice and fixing a date for receiving same for a public hearing on plans, specifications, form of contract, an estimate of cost of construction of the Newman Catholic School, Middle and High School Music Suite Tornado Safe Room project for the city of Mason City, Iowa, and Newman Catholic School System. Are there any items, council, that we'd like to pull? All right, well, seeing none, is there a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call roll.
Turnquist.
Yes.
Solberg. Yes. Hickey.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. Thank you, council. Number 16, this is a public hearing. If you have comments you'd like to make regarding this item, you'll be asked to come to the podium after we read this. It's a resolution amending the budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2011, City of Mason City, Iowa. As I mentioned, you're welcome to come to the podium, state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes to address the council. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion and a second to the resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion on this? Anybody else? All right, seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Turnquist.
Yes.
Solberg. Yes. Nelson.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Hickey.
Yes.
Resolution carries. Thank you, council. Number 17, administrator recommending approval of resolution adopting plans, specifications, form of contracted, estimated cost for the construction of the 2011 street panel and curb replacement project, project number 1111-1002, and B, bid tabulation. C, resolution award of contract, Mid-Continent Contracting, Mason City, Iowa. And D, resolution approving contract and bond 2011 street panel and curb replacement program project number 1111-1002. This is also a public hearing. If you have comments you'd like to make regarding this item, please come forward and state your name and address, and you will have 5 minutes. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion and a second on the resolutions and the acceptance of the bid tabulation?
All in one motion.
Yeah, we're going to do all of them.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this? Mr. Nelson?
No.
Mr. Weaver?
Yeah, can we sort of get a response to the presentation that we heard in the public forum?
What was your first name again?
Carrie.
Candy?
Carrie.
Carrie.
She had a kind of concept there, jumpstart the dog park issue. Where
This is-
would we be on that?
This is the street,
Am I on the wrong issue?
yes,
It's typical, I'm way ahead of everybody.
that's right.
We'll get to you.
Slow down, council.
We'll get.
Is there any other
So
discussion?
my family says, Mayor.
I know. All right, anybody have a discussion? All right, seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Turnquist.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Hickey.
Yes.
Solberg. Yes.
All right, resolution carries. Number 18, administrator recommending approval, flood buyout land reuse, a presentation, and I believe we'll have a sand off.
Mayor, Bookmeyer, and Council. run through the recommendations that we have really quickly. As you know, the city administrator formed an ad hoc committee to make recommendations on the use of the buyout properties. We're going to have 161 separate lots, and all but 2 of those lots are deed restricted. They have to be kept as open space. That doesn't mean they have to be kept green and undeveloped. There are things that we can do with those properties. And so we started meeting last year, and we also had a couple of meetings with neighboring property owners. And then in March of this year, we had a meeting in this room. We had about 100 people attend, and we broke out based on neighborhood and got some feedback on what staff and the small group of neighbors' initial recommendations were. There are 4 options that we're looking at for the areas that cannot be developed. One of them is creating a naturalized area. The lots would be seeded and would be allowed, the natural ecosystem would be allowed to reestablish itself. For aesthetic purposes, about 30 feet of the lot abutting the street right-of-way would be mowed. We're recommending some light maintenance areas where the property would be periodically maintained by the city. After demolition, the ground is seeded, and then once the ground cover is established, the lot gets mowed on approximately a monthly basis. Developed areas are areas that were identified for a specific future use. These sites would be developed within the restrictions that FEMA and the Iowa Department of Economic Development required we place on the property. And then leased areas. We have had some interest from neighboring property owners to lease adjacent buyout properties. Some people just want to mow them because they want to make sure that they're mowed more than once a month. We have people who want to garden them. Some people just want to have it as a green space that would essentially become part of their yard. So we need to work with the city. If the council approves our recommendations, we'll work with the city attorney to come up with a model lease for your approval. I'll run through the recommendations on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis real quick. In the Parkers Woods and West Park neighborhood, whenever possible, the streets and alleys should be removed. Underground utilities should be removed if possible. We believe there are 2 streets that could be abandoned and vacated and no longer be public right-of-way. The neighbors have expressed an interest in having some type of a walking path that would connect to the city's walking path neighborhood, or excuse me, the city's master plan and the existing path network. That's something that we'd have to work with the neighborhood in the future. We're recommending primarily naturalized areas and some light maintenance areas in the meantime. There are 3 lots on Crescent Drive, and the neighbors, 2 of those lots have expressed interest in leasing those lots and maintaining those on behalf of the city. In the area west of downtown, we're looking at incorporating the lots that we purchased into the existing greenbelt on Willow Creek, using the existing plant materials to landscape the area, and using some, in all the areas we're recommending natural pest control, installing bat houses and Cook Martin houses to help keep the mosquito population down. On Elm Drive, we've identified an area for a potential dog park. We already have 2 city-owned lots north of 14th Street that are not deed restricted, and we have the lots between Elm Drive and North Connecticut. The buyout lots are deed restricted. If we vacate and convey Connecticut and part of 14th Street, we would have some land that is not deed restricted, where we could do some structural improvements that meet our floodplain management ordinance requirements. We've also had some interest in building a small memorial to workers who were killed on the job on 13th Street Northeast. Because it's so close to the former Decker plant site, we think that would be a really good place to do something like that. It would be visible, and it wouldn't take too much of the property to do that. On 10th and 11th Street Northeast, we're recommending that in order to protect the levee, that if possible, Oakland Drive be abandoned in its current alignment and moved to the east. Right now, trucks come around that end and they scrape the levee. And we do still have houses in that neighborhood protected by the levee, so we need to do everything that we can to keep from damaging the levee. The cul-de-sac at the 10th Street Northeast has wandered because it's a gravel street that goes where people drive. And so we're recommending that the cul-de-sac be reestablished within the existing map right-of-way, and a better defined parking area be created for the river access that's currently located on the levee. There is a small area where you can get up over the levee. There's a staircase that goes down to a small beach area below the dam where we get a lot of people who go down there to fish. And so keeping that access is important. In the Oak Park and Maryland Avenue neighborhood, we're recommending that everything west of North Carolina be removed underground utilities abandoned in place, and the area be allowed to naturalize. We would like to see some light maintenance around the Marston House. That's the very large arts and crafts house on Carolina. They have a daycare. They want to see some maintenance around their property, but for the most part, we think it would be best to allow that area to naturalize. It is a naturally low area. It's a wet area, and so we think that having that as what will essentially be a detention area is important. The area east of North Carolina and north of 7th Street would have light maintenance. In the future, we'd like to work with the neighbors to establish a more defined area there, but in the short term, a light maintenance area would be preferable. And then south of 7th Street Northeast, we'd allow that to be naturalized as well. The Norris Hughes softball complex, we had initially identified that as a location of a miracle field. There is significant resistance to that among the neighbors. They're concerned about how much space it might take, that it might be too crowded in the neighborhood. They are recommending that we keep that as a green space. The neighbors would very much like to see this green space, practice field, and in certain areas to be allowed to use to expand the parking area at the softball complex. There's one lot at the end of 2nd Street Northeast that we would allow to naturalize, and 2 lots on the south side of 2nd Street Northeast, 4 lots, that the neighbors are willing to maintain for us. The lots on Birch Drive, we're recommending those be seeded and allowed to naturalize. There's actually an oxbow on the river on one of those properties, and so we think it's important to continue on with the green belt that's on the river. In the Meadowbrook area, we're recommending that the properties along the creek be allowed to naturalize, with the exception of a lot that's located at 1200 Meadowbrook Drive. The neighbors would like to see a pocket park developed in that neighborhood. They had a playground in an open area. There was a school site where Cottonwood Village is being developed right now. And they lost that when the subdivision was developed. They'd like to see it replaced. They've also requested that the city consider putting a pedestrian bridge across Chesley Creek. And it hadn't occurred to me until I looked at a map. It's a 14-block walk to get across Chesley Creek. If you want to walk and stay, not go across the creek, you've got to walk 14 blocks to get across the creek that crosses the property. In the 26th Street Southwest area, there's one lot. We're recommending that it be incorporated into the existing green belt that's right next to it. The city already owns that property and mows it once a month. And then the 2 properties on South Adams are the only 2 that can be developed, and we're recommending that those be held until some kind of decision is made on the future of Highway 122. And at that point, if there's any redevelopment strategy in that neighborhood, these lots would fit into it very well. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Sandall. We'll take the motion and one discussion. I think you might want to stand by. We have a motion here for B, approval of future land use strategies and authorization for staff to prepare project descriptions and cost estimates for each.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have discussion.
I like every aspect of the plan. It's pretty cool the way it's come together with the ad hoc committee and then the neighborhood involvement. I think that's the best kind of plan we could possibly have. I don't have any issue with any aspect of the plan. I support the dog park. I like the idea of working with the finance director to set up an account where more people could start making donations. At some point in time, we probably need a committee or something to come together to figure out what we want the dog park to look like so we can start putting costs to it. But we've been kicking that around for about 1.5 years now. So it'd be kind of nice to see that moving forward. The only thing that jumped out at me, Trish, and I don't know, maybe this is for you, Brent, was the very last sentence in the packet, and the one you just touched on, that we're kind of holding on the 2 properties down in South Adams until we've made a final determination with regard to Highway 122. And my recollection of the workshop we had with the DOT is we had unanimity with those of us that were at the workshop that we're going to leave it the way it is. It's just cost prohibitive to change it. However, I also realized as I thought through that we were in a work session, so we couldn't really make a decision. So it's probably appropriate to get this on an agenda so that we can officially say we're going to leave it the way it is, and so that the DOT knows that we've taken action, and at least that's a bad issue from our perspective.
We'll do it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Norquist. Mr. Rick, can I a second?
Yep. No, I think everything here, you've done a great job. One question I have for you that I've heard from some citizens that hasn't been brought up is maybe like a primitive campgrounds. and I don't know if that's an option or available, but I've heard that numerous times here lately, and I thought I'd just ask and see what your thoughts were on that.
We actually did have some comments about that when we were, when we did the public meeting. The area that's most commonly identified for primitive campgrounds was the Oak Park neighborhood. The neighbors in that neighborhood are very opposed to having campgrounds. The other issue that you have is that any type of a use, you have to be able to get the area cleared with typical flood warning time. And what we found out in 2008 is we have very little warning time when the water goes over the levee. And the forecast models are off by about 3 feet. So the thing that I would be really concerned about would be putting campers in such a low-lying area. And knowing that there's neighborhood opposition, that you know there may be some demand for permanent campsites. So.
Okay.
One of the things that's nice with what we're doing here, we're designating these areas as naturalized areas. And at some point, if the city or the park board wanted to bring an idea forward that would take and determine there's a better use or an idea that they have, we'll be able to do that. The important thing was for us to get all these areas designated, and then we can take other ideas forward, and that's going to be the advantage we have with this additional land. Is it's going to be available for us in the future for a neat idea that might come along. We just don't know what it would be right now.
Okay. The other, I do like the idea that you did a very good job, Ms. Crum, on the presentation. I do like the idea of the dog park. I've seen them in different communities, Davenport and different areas, and they seem to work very well. We restrict dogs in a lot of ways with leash laws and everything else that we do nowadays. So I think that would be a good avenue for pet owners to utilize the city more. So I'm in favor of that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Shaky. Anything else down there? Mr. Weaver?
Yeah, just to get back to where I was at, knowing city government the way I know city government, we might or might not have a dog park in the next 10 years. So is it a total fundraising thing? Is that what we're doing? Or did Ms. Crum ask for some?
I think Ms. Crum is speaking as a citizen. I mean, when they get to the point where they have a committee and they come and represent, then she would be allowed to come back up here. Ms. Sandoll currently is the staff representative for this item.
Right. And as far as starting up, Park Board had some discussion about the fundraising that's required in order to do it. I think that the right step is to get a committee together and get the ideas, options, and so forth available, so that when we go through the budget process next year, we'll have all of that information as to what we think we want a dog park to look like, and then we can make decisions as we make decisions on what capital improvement projects we want. And really, it's going to take, you know, that 2-3 months to really get all the ideas formulated, get the people that she knows that are interested on the committee with staff, and then we'll come up with the ideas. And I think it'll be about the right timing. September, October, we'll have the information and move forward.
So it'll be at least a minimum year and a half, 2 years for dog park.
We actually still have homes on some of the properties right now,
So
too.
we're
So we're still a little ways away from being able to do anything with the property.
I mean, we're looking at 2 to 3 years before we have everything cleared and the lots certified that they're cleared. Because of the historic codes.
Really? 2 or 3 years.
Yep.
For a dog park, 2 or 3 years for a dog park. How big will the dog park be?
You want to actually stand there, you want to come to the mic, just so people know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The
okay.
piece of property that we're looking at, if we incorporate the 2 city-owned lots, is 5.5 acres. The area where we want to put the dog park is going to be cleared, should be cleared by the end of the summer, because the last remaining structures are within our next round of demolitions. They've been tested for asbestos already. We are using one of the lots north of 14th Street as a nursery bed for plants. We've been working with the gardeners in North Iowa to identify plants that need to be relocated that will be destroyed during demolition. And operations and maintenance built 2 nursery beds for the gardeners to use. And so we are using that space for the next year to 2 years.
Well, I'm kind of lost. Yeah, I hear you say that the land for the dog park will be cleared later this year. fence and a sign with some rules, and boom, boom, we got a dog park. Help me out understand what am I doing wrong here?
I don't think it's I mean, the fence has costs.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about fencing on 5.5 acres, you're talking about multiple fenced
I wasn't,
areas.
is 5.5 acres going to be the dog park size? Because you sounded like it was just the part of the dog park was going to be cleared. I guess.
No, I think we, based on the discussions we had with the Humane Society, that the minimum size for an effective dog park that can get used is going to be about 5 acres. You'll have a large dog area, you'll have a small dog area.
So how big will the area be ready this fall be?
We will have it all cleared, but we may not have the property released as open space. We have to certify that it's cleared, and FEMA has to walk away from the properties. The other issue is we don't have anything budgeted in this next fiscal year, so there's no money to do a dog park until July of 2012.
Unless we took it out of reserves.
Yeah.
I think that's where we were going to take the micro enterprise money from, wasn't it?
No, because that was budgeted.
So you know, I mean, I guess 3 years to me is
No, the question that you asked me was, when would the structures be down? And I was answering that by a why, 3 years. For this piece of property, we should have it cleared, hopefully we'll have it cleared by fall.
And the release could come, and how soon could the release come?
I honestly don't anticipate the release until July of next year.
So maybe we just speeded it up, saved a year and a half.
Yeah, I don't speed a whole lot of FEMA stuff up. They're
Obviously, we know the desire here, and we'll move things as quickly as we can.
All right, Ms. Solberg, just before you go there, I think that, you know, I mean, this is a land reuse item. Having said that, on the dog park, to address this week, I think it makes sense if it's not going to get done right away. They've got time to form the committee, go through the proper steps, park board, et cetera, et cetera. Ms. Solberg.
I thought it was a great public input meeting that night. It was just fantastic, all the ideas that came out of it, and participation from the different neighborhoods. And I'd like to see a dog park come in the near future here. And you know, but that has to go through the park board first, though, correct?
Right.
Any kind of thing like that? Sure. Okay. Okay. All right. So best of luck. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Ms. Solberg. Mr. Nelson, do you have any?
No, just to compliment the citizens group, the park board, the city staff. I think have done an excellent job in the planning process. And I congratulate all the groups. Excellent plan.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Anybody else? Mr. Aiken.
I can appreciate the point you're trying to get at, Councilman Weaver. The thing I've learned since being on the council, as we all know, is government is a slow process, unfortunately, and FEMA, obviously, we haven't even got all the houses bought out yet over 3 years. And I know what you're trying to say. I'd love to see the dog park book too, but it sounds like we got steps and process in place that we need to move through. And, but I'm all for it, so. But I appreciate what you're saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aiken. Anybody else? Ms. Weaver.
Well, I waited for somebody to kind of jump on my bandwagon. What would be the problem with, we know we want to do it, we have the support of the community, I know we have the support of the park board, I know we have the support of the council, whether it's this city council or the next one. It's just an amenity that's overdue in the community. So what would be the problem with jumping through all those hoops?
Well, I think
why couldn't we take it to, why
that's a
couldn't we take
completely
it?
reasonable thing to do.
Yeah, why couldn't we take it to?
At this point in time, we're talking about the land reuse authorization here and recommending approval. So if we want to talk about authorizing funding for a dog park or moving that process forward, let's get it on the agenda somewhere else, and then we'll do the process.
I'll put it on the next agenda that we start the process with the Parks Department. We could save 6 months to 8 months just through the meeting process, the meetings and stuff. I'll put that on there and we'll see what kind of support we get.
Actually, I think what you're doing tonight, that would move that process forward. The staff's asking, sorry. I think what we're asking you to do tonight, we're asking you to allow us to go ahead and bring those proposals forward.
Yeah.
And so I think with tonight's vote, that would a lot of city administrators, along with the park board and with operations and maintenance staff, and with the folks who are really interested in the dog park to help design the dog park, because you want to have a dog park that people are going to want to use, and to start the fundraising and the cost estimates.
I'll be watching to see if it's on the next park board agenda then. You know, let's start somewhere. We can certainly speed up the process. My mom used to say people die waiting, you know what I mean? And that's true.
Mr. Weaver. Anybody else? All right, seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Tornquist.
Yes.
Hickey.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Solberg.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, council. Number 19, Councilmember Nelson requesting approval to schedule the Mason City Citizens Listening Post on June 2nd, 2011 regarding the proposed multi-purpose center. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes, a few comments, Mayor, if you don't mind. What I am requesting is for unanimous support from the city council to conduct the May City Citizens Listening Post on the proposed multi-purpose center to be scheduled for Thursday, June the 2nd of this year. We have held only one listening post for our Mason City citizens, and that was approximately 8 months ago. And only 8.9% of our Mason City citizens responded to a survey, which was mailed out a couple of months ago. I feel that after the presentation to the council by the 7-member appointed multi-purpose center ad hoc committee, which will, by the way, take place on May 24th, that our citizens could have specific questions that they might have interest in addressing the council at the listening post I am proposing. It's our citizens' tax dollars we would be spending, regardless of what specific mechanism we decide to use to build the proposed center. It's only my personal opinion, however, that our citizens would welcome the opportunity to voice their opinions and views face-to-face with their elected city officials. To build, not to build, and if to build, how would be financed and operated. I sincerely hope for your support, Council, to conduct the Citizens Listening Post on June 2nd here in the Mason City Room, which is reserved at the public library, and hopefully the time not set, but 6:30 to 8 p.m. I will say this and end with this comment. The library referendum was for 7.65. 7,605,000. The two presentations I have heard for the proposed multi-purpose center was approximately 15 million, double the cost. And outside of one listening post, which is 8 months ago, and a survey, that's all discussions we've had. I've got calls and people stop me saying, when are we going to have the opportunity to come before the council and express our favor of, not in favor of, and other specific questions. So this prompted me to ask the council for the full support in scheduling a citizens listening post on the date I so stated, June 2nd. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Mr. Weaver?
Well, I'll have more to say after I hear from my colleagues. I'm sure there'll be some opposition to this, but what is the next step? We're going to meet on the 24th with the committee. We're going to hear their presentation again. We had the venue works. We went to that. We've been sent the tape. We've all reviewed that. Then we're going to meet with the committee and hear what they have to say, what they lend. And then the rest of it's going to be some sort of staff to figure out, well, okay, what's our next step? What are we going to do? I have a tendency to agree with Mr. Nelson. I think it's time that we bring the citizens back, especially after the 24th, the evening of the 24th, the meeting we're going to have, that it would be a pretty logical step to hear what the citizens have to say. It's not going to be the end all for me. Let's hear what they have to say. I don't want to be accused of cutting the citizens out. So I just don't know what's a better time. We wait till what, July, August, we get everything, our ducks lined up. Well, you know what? There might be some great suggestions meeting with the citizens. There always is. If you've served on the council with any length of time and you've listened to the constituents, you know you've heard some great ideas come from our citizens. That's where most great ideas do. And so I'm not opposed to having a meeting. And if you don't want to show up, don't show up. I think it'll be taped, or there'll be minutes to it. We can review it later. And those of us that want to show up should show up and hear what the people have to say. So I don't know what a good time is. I don't know what the next steps or the next steps. Who's deciding what? I don't know who's doing that, but I don't have any problem at all having this meeting and listening to the citizens and hearing their input at that juncture. And I certainly would hope that it would happen again too. And of course, we haven't even made a decision yet how we are going to proceed, if we do it all, with how we pay for it. And will it be a public vote? Will a petition be presented? Who knows? So I guess I'd like to get on the same page as some of the citizens that at least care enough to show up that evening. So I'll support that tonight. June 2nd sounds like a pretty good time, right after the May 24th. I think it's May 24th we're going to have the meeting. So I'm okay with it. I'd like to hear from Brent Trout if you think it's a good idea, if you think it's a...
Well, obviously, having public input is always important when you have dealings with, especially something like this. As far as the timing, I guess it depends on what you're looking for, as far as whether you're looking for something that talks the concepts that they presented, get that input. Because obviously, if the citizens don't want to see something that's designed the way the task force has, then that might modify the council's direction to staff as far as the design.
Is there a design the task force is going to show us?
No, there isn't. But
okay.
As far as the types of things that they're recommending that exist within that, they do talk about those items in their presentation. The types of venue that is to be created and what types of things would be possible to have in there. And so that garners a certain amount of information that develops the size that would have to exist within the multi-purpose center to do it as they're recommending.
So we would certainly want to hear from the citizens and what their needs and
Of
wants
course,
are.
at some point, everybody expects that they'll hear from the citizens in this process.
Well, I would hope probably more than just one time. There'll be
Well, I think there's a lot of steps that have to happen because the project is...
So if we have a presentation on the 24th and we hear, we have the citizens to come in on June 2nd, we just all get smarter. And what's wrong with that?
Yeah, anytime if you want, we will
Are
schedule.
you okay with the meeting on June 2nd?
I'm fine.
Are you fine with it?
I'm fine with that.
All right, that's good enough for me.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Ms. Dornquist. I'm fully supportive of the listening post, but I'm not yet sure if I'm supportive of this listening post. The questions, Mr. Nelson, that you said we would want to address on the 2nd, how much, it's the citizens' tax dollars, how much to build, not to build, or how would we finance it? We won't have answers to any of those questions on June 2nd. All we will have is a presentation that the committee makes to us on the 24th. I won't lose any sleep if we have this listening post, certainly. I'm always interested in what people say, but there won't be anything that comes out of this listening post that will put me in a position to vote either way on the issue, because we have not yet gathered enough information. If you recall the steps that we were going to go through, the multi-purpose task force was going to survey the community and try to identify what type of amenities such a facility would have were it to be built that would meet the most needs or desires of the people in the community. My understanding is they've done that. They're going to make a presentation to us on what they think a facility should look like were one to be built. The next step in the process would then be for staff to take that information and work with their resources to start putting costing information to that type of a facility. And then once costing information is identified, look at various ways that the project could be financed. And it seems to me the only way we can talk responsibly with the citizens about the amount of their tax dollars or how we would finance it is after staff has gone through the next 2 steps after we've received the presentation from the multi-purpose task force. Perhaps there's some things that we could learn from the citizens. I'm not opposed to having a work session or a listening post on the 2nd, but I wouldn't expect anything real surprising to come out of it And certainly, even if we have that one, we're going to have another one, which is not a bad thing. So I don't know, I'd like to hear from the balance of my colleagues.
Ms. Cronquist. Ms. Silver.
I too am in favor of a listening post, but I think this particular one is a little bit premature because we don't have anything except for a report from the committee at that point in time. We don't have a location determined, we don't have money determined, we just don't have any potential prospective facts to throw out there to the community. And I think we need to have that before we pursue the listening post. Thank you.
Ms. Silver. Ms. Drake, do you have anything before we move to response?
Well, to my understanding, the presentation we're going to get from the task force is basically based on the types of use that the city would benefit from. They're not recommending if we build a building, where we build the building, the size of the building, the cost, or anything like that. So I agree that we're not going to have any answers, any information to get out there. All the task force is going to give us is their recommendation of possible uses if we decide to move. And then it's going to go through staff, and who knows if there's going to be more studies that move forward, and costs and things like that. So I'm definitely open to listening to public input. I'm not exactly sure if this is the right time as well. We won't have any answers, and we don't know if we're going to move forward with it. If it's a good idea for the city, we wouldn't have a location, costs, or anything like that. So I don't know. I'm fine if we have the meeting, I guess, to listen to the public, but I'm just not sure we're going to have any answers that we could provide them for the future anyway. So one way or the other, I don't care if we have it or not. That's where I'm at.
Thank you, Ms. Drake. Mr. Nelson.
You addressed the timing. There's several questions about the timing. You know, I think a week after the presentation by the ad hoc committee would develop a lot of questions for our staff and for us to address later. This is why I selected a possible open date to have it after the ad hoc presentation. I think we'll have questions. I assume we'll ask those questions at the time of the presentation. But also, you know, the more people listening develop their questions and they come forth to the listening post and present the questions to us. We may not have the answers, but I think we can get back to citizens, which we do. We get signatures and addresses. So I think the timing couldn't be more perfect. Is this the final one? I hope not. I hope not. I know but it's a start. You know, I like to hear more from citizens down the road, but I don't think it's premature. And I think the timing 1 week after the ad hoc group comes and makes the presentation would be excellent time to have. That's why I picked that day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Anybody else in response? Mr. Weaver.
Thank you. How many votes will this take to pass tonight? What do we have to have? 4?
Just three gets a buy. Simple motion. Just simple motion.
So I just need 3 votes?
That's correct.
So I'm assuming I have Travis Hickey and Don Nelson. I'm supporting you down on this. Here's the deal. It's pretty presumptuous to say that, well, we're going to have this meeting on the 24th, but we're not going to, it's a listening post, number one. It's not like we're going to come there with any answers. It's a listening post. I think the coffee clatches will be real busy after the 24th. People will be talking. There'll be some articles written. People will be reading that stuff, and they're going to be buzzing and talking. So it's pretty presumptuous to say, well, we're going to send it to staff without a listening post and let staff come up with their idea. Really? We're the ones that are elected to represent. Let's hear what the people have to say, good, bad, indifferent, ideas, whatever. And then staff can take all that stuff in the listening post also and have a general idea what the citizens want. It's not what we want or that group that sat here and did the hard work over the last few months. I just think it's probably pretty good timing. And you know what? It's good for the community. It's good to have a conversation. We've got an issue on here tonight, the next issue, that it's on here tonight because it lacked real good conversation. I know I brought it up at some meeting a couple months ago. Where are we at on these driveways? That lady there, I know I represented you at one meeting.
It's gonna stay on.
And so that's why that's on tonight, because we didn't listen and work together. And council members are the ones who make the decisions. So I think who better to listen to it's a listening post. The stuff that Don wrote down here, you know, that's a very well indeed, but our listening posts, when we have them, never really stays true to the things that are what we're going to talk about that evening, or we're going to let be talked about. I think it's a good thing. I think 3 of us are willing to go. I appreciate Travis, your comments. It doesn't either way. So I hope you support it tonight. And we're about doing the business on the 2nd. Who knows what's going to happen? Could last 15 minutes. 2 people could show up. So could 200. So let's just do it. We're doing our job. And let's move it forward and see what we have. It shakes out. Thank you. Hope you pass it.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Anybody else down here? Mr. Hickey? All right. Clerk, call the roll.
Nelson.
Yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
Tornquist.
Yes.
Solberg. No. Hickey.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Keep going.
Number 20, Councilmember Weaver requesting approval that the council make a decision regarding the driveway solid curves on Federal Avenue. Mr. Weaver, do you have a motion?
Well, what is it you told me to say tonight now?
I think your motion would be to direct staff to prepare a change order to amend the previous resolution.
You know, you're putting words in my mouth. That's not what I want to say here tonight.
All right, well,
But I'll grant you your wish tonight, okay? Hoping that nicety rubs off on you.
Just say so moved.
So move.
All right, is there a second?
That's what's wrong with
I heard
that.
the motion again. With direction.
Did you write that down, Diana?
Write that down.
Direct staff to develop a change order.
Yep, to amend the previous resolution.
I see, that's not the motion I wanted to make, Mayor. That's your personality coming through tonight, not mine.
All right.
Can I make my motion?
Is there a second? You want to make it, you said so moved. You want to pull your motion? It's your own motion.
Well, it's not gonna, I didn't get a second. There's nothing to pull.
Were you seconding it?
No, I wanted the motion.
No, it's not around the
You're a
table.
change order to change what's in, no.
Your motion didn't pass, Mayor. I'll make my motion. I'll make my motion. We'll see if it shakes out. We'll see where it goes. Hey, I just make a motion tonight to have a discussion so we can make a motion. That's it.
All right. Do you have a motion for any action?
For discussion, and then we will take action. I have no idea, I can't presume to know what my colleagues are thinking.
Well, I guess maybe speaking with them ahead of time and speaking with staff ahead of time would have been helpful.
I did speak with staff ahead of time. I did speak with some of the colleagues.
Then I would hope that you would come with a motion that's prepared.
I don't have one. I think I'm on the record as saying this is one of the toughest decisions.
Does anybody else have a motion on this item that is actionable?
Can I make your same motion with the to postpone to the next council meeting? Because Councilman Marsters isn't here.
I think that's a very fair motion.
Fair.
But you're making a motion to postpone item 20 until the next meeting when Mr. Marsters is here.
Yes, please.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on this?
I need to interject. The only thing I'm concerned about, though, is I've seen the project, we're starting to make progress. And to wait until the next council meeting on June 7th may be an issue. If we're able to, could we put it on prior to the May 24th, if Mr. Marshall is going to be available, so that we can make a decision sooner, so that we can continue to move the project forward?
Mr. Hickey, there's going to be apparently 2 more times that we're going to meet before.
I'm fine with that.
So we'll just say motion postponed until next meeting of it, or workshop.
24th.
Until the 24th. I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Hold on, let's let Mr. Ram here address this. It's Director Ram, City Engineer.
Mayor, Council, thank you. As Mr. Trout mentioned, there are two workshops ahead of the June 7th meeting, which I believe it is critical that we get this on sooner than June 7th, just to keep the project moving along as it is. We are currently working between 3rd and 4th Street on putting light pole bases, and we're actually, as of probably tomorrow, we will be starting to be held up some up on that block. So we need to, if the wish is to move, to postpone and take action later, needs to be as soon as possible.
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
All right, is there a second?
No.
Nelson, second. All right, is there any discussion on this? Mr. Nelson?
No.
Mr. Lundquist?
On a motion to postpone, is the discussion strictly on the postponement, or is it on the merits of the
It's
item?
primarily on the postponement, and the reason why to postpone.
And the reason why to postpone?
Because Councilman Marsh is
His word.
So we're not gonna have any discussion on this?
You're making a motion to postpone item 20.
And there'll be no discussion? Well, then we're just gonna be in the same place we've been. It's been before us here in the last month.
Okay. All right, is there any discussion on the postponement of item number 20? Ms. Solberg?
Can I clarify what time the meeting is next Tuesday? Because I thought it was 7 o'clock, I've heard 6:30, because I am out of town and I'm gonna be scrambling to get back by 7.
The meeting is scheduled for 7. Currently, the May 24th meeting is scheduled for 7 o'clock.
Because if we put something ahead of time,
No,
I,
we can put this
I
at the end of
won't
the meeting, and I think
be
that
here.
given the number of people that would be present for that,
Okay.
could be, we'll put it at the end of the meeting, and we'll simply have our agenda state that our special council meeting will follow as soon as the presentation is completed tonight, that the work session is completed. That way you can be present without any conflict.
All right. All right, seeing none, clerk call the roll on postponement to the 24th.
Hickey.
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Tornquist.
Yes.
Solberg.
yes.
Weaver.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, council. That concludes our order of business. We're adjourned.
But we have a meeting, don't we, in 5 minutes? You can tell the public.
We have a meeting inside.
All right, you should tell them.
Thank you, sir.
Actually, did that on night. I think they lost.
Yeah. What do you know? What's the next meeting on?
24th, we have the presentation.
Do you have a meeting tonight yet?
Just public listening.
Oh, public listening first, right? Okay. But yeah, I know the 24th is the multi-use deal. You have a workshop too and all that night then?
Sounds like it.
Huh. Good times.
Always is.
No, Jake.
A couple things.
Oh, you're gonna do some talking today?
No. I do behind the scenes stuff.
Probably
I'm talking to Tom Meyer.
For you?
Yeah, I sit next to him.
Okay.
Just put buckets here.
Yeah. Get him working for you.
Better than against you.
I would think the lawyer against you is never a good thing.
Absolutely, and we've elected to hold off on
It's a firefighting business these days.
until we get that.
Do you ever go out on bed calls or anything like that? You've been out there, what do you want? You're on the south end of town, that's really close.
I have my people do that. My scanner is in the mail, so I will be going out on some calls as soon as it gets in my mailbox. Tuned in, so I'll be going
Business right now.
It's all, yeah, it's all a business write-off now.
I just hate to get
It's news related.
I've
How many calls you guys get a week? You gotta go out and...
We average like 12 a day.
12 a day?
Yeah.
Wow.
And, you know, but 10 of those are events.
Okay. Okay. Okay, right. Probably ambulances. You guys are ambulances. So yeah, that would make it higher.
Like 6 years now. So 7 years. 7 years in June 1st.
It's got joy with the that'll keep you guys jumping. Definitely.
Yeah, they send out our sleepless nights, like when they walk out of the
Yeah, I'm sure that's some strange hours you gotta choose about.
as soon as I hear anything like
Thursday, they're bringing up that piece to clear like fire department in East World Trade Center.
I heard about that, but I didn't know that was the day.
This Thursday.
This coming next Thursday? This Thursday. This Thursday?
This Thursday.
So what, yeah, you know what time it is.
It's a meeting there. Well, we're actually meeting with them in Portland.
Okay.
Down firefighter thing is a bunch of us riding our motorcycles, riding back from one of our stops is at the Harley dealership, picking up the ISPs, fire trucks, and ambulances. It'll be like almost like a lighted parade.
All Tri-City to
All the way down Clear Lake to the new fire station. So we're supposed to.
How big is this piece?
It is. It's like 17 inches by 4 or 5 inches by like 17. I don't know if they got it on flatbed or trailer. No, it's like I think it's like 17 feet.
17 feet.
But I don't know that.
Okay, no, I won't. But I'll try to find out some more information.
But they'll be ambulances, fire trucks. They'll take the avenue and it'll be escorted all the way to. You're supposed to arrive at the Clear Lake Fire Station at 5. So you can probably put you on the avenue or something.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks for the tip. I appreciate it.
Other than that,
just living the dream.
Legislative session still going on.
Yeah, it is.
we heard from another 2 weeks, June 2nd. It's looking pretty good.
Men's room. Let's go all the way back to the men's room. There you go. How's the wife and kids?
Good.
2 now, right?
2, yeah. One is 6 months old, and the one is she'll be 6 years.
Right.
In June.
Wow.
Time flies.
Yes, it does.
That much closer to retirement.
You're way too young to be looking for that.
20 more years, 21 more years.
21.
More years, yeah. Almost a third of the way.
Yeah.
It goes by quick though.
Yeah.
Is this where Weaver gets up on all things?
He may. He does a lot. He hardly ever doesn't.
I didn't make it to the last.
Hopefully no one else does, because I want to go home. It's to be a long day.
You get to sleep in every day. Wake up by an alarm clock.
No, not anymore. That's the news. It's non-stop. It's non-stop.
We're going to start the listening post, folks. Council be seated. All right. This is public input listening post from Mason City Council. Citizens have 5 minutes to address council on any item that they wish, and there's no feedback from or comments from the council. And we have 5 minutes. The clock is right up in front. So.
My name's Pat Seifert, and I live at 304 3rd Street Northeast. And I want to thank Don Nelson for bringing this up tonight for a listening post. I think it's great. Maybe we won't have any details right away, but it will give the general public a chance to be here and to at least form their opinion, which there's many against the multi-purpose center, and I'm sure there's people for. So I think this is a great idea. So it's our first one, that's fine. If we have 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Thanks, Don.
Hey, Ms. Stafford. Anybody else?
Hold Nellie's chair.
I don't like your chairs. They're killing my back because my poor little legs don't go down to the floor. I'm not as tall as some of you fellas are. Millie Evans, 671 3rd Place Southeast. First of all, I want to thank Don too. I think people forget we're not working for the council is working for us. And we have a right to say what we want to talk about at these meetings, and we should have them. Anyhow, my main thing is I want to get back to this Papa John micro enterprise thing. I've lived here all my life and I'm for jobs. But I come to the conclusion, why would anybody want to come here? We've had opportunities, and what have you done? You've turned them down. Target wanted to come here. We didn't get them. I heard it was because we didn't have manpower, but I heard from a pretty good source it was because the 2 cement plants didn't want them here. And then one of them left. That's really nice. We had a chance to get a casino. I'm not a gambler, but let's face it, we got alcoholics and gamblers. They're gonna do it whether we have it or not. They go on busloads all over to gamble. Anybody ought to know that kids aren't allowed in a casino. We were gonna ruin our kids because if we had a casino here, maybe some of these people ought to work on these kids for all the vandalism we have in Mason City. And I don't want to blame all the kids. We got a lot of good kids in Mason City. But I don't think it's the senior citizens that are doing this. We have a lot of it. But I do think that we need jobs here, but what guarantee is it that anybody's going to come to Mason City after we turn down opportunities? Nobody's going to want to come here, waste their time and money to try to get something going, and they come to the council, well, we'll vote it down. But I just say we need those jobs, but I don't want to spend my money. I'm trying to get a job here if it's not going, if it isn't going to come to fruition. If it isn't going to be totally completed, why waste the time and money? And basically, I'd like to have jobs here. There's too doggone many people that are looking for jobs. They need jobs. But if you want to work on jobs, that's fine, but think about where we're going to spend our money if it's not going to be completed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Evans.
Else?
Oh, yes. That's weird. Thank you, Max Weaver, Mason City. I wasn't going to come here tonight, Mayor, but you kind of spoon-fed me that motion, and then we got sidetracked with not a second. I think Councilman Tornquist and Solberg probably heard you give me that motion, so I'm hoping I'm correct with what I'm saying. We just need to discuss. See, here's what's happened. The issue has become political. The entrances into it's a political question now. That means it's going to be decided by 6 council members of what direction we go. Now, I'm sure some of you were in favor of it tonight, some of you weren't, and some of you probably didn't have your mind made up, like me. I put it on the agenda, and I mentioned both things. I told Jeff, I'm not promising anything, Jeff. I'm going to put it on there. Do we want a full curb to stay with the continuity, or do we want to help a downtown business with your request? I didn't know which way to go. Now I don't know which way to go. We're going to have a meeting next Tuesday. We haven't directed, we haven't discussed anything. You're up in the air. Bill Angerman and staff, Mark are up in the air. So what's going to happen between now and next Tuesday? Are you going to go in and talk to who? Brent's going to direct Mark, or are they? You get my drift. We don't know any more than we do coming in tonight than we will next Tuesday. And then it's going to take 2 more weeks, or the next meeting from next Tuesday, to make a change, because we have to amend the plan. And that's all we can do next. We can't direct, I don't think, the plan next Tuesday. We just have to make all we can do is make at least that's what the attorney told me. All we'll be able to do next week is just say, look, we're going to amend the plan. So then that's going to be another week or 2 weeks. I just talked to Bill Angerman from Wallace and Holland and Jeff Tierney and Mark Graham. They're all nervous about that. That's pushing the whole envelope down potentially 3 more weeks. And we haven't had a discussion. This is a political decision. Council's going to make the decision. See, what Mr. Weaver did is I heard from a constituent like we all did. And I said, well, the only way we're going to get to the bottom of this, because I know I brought it up several months before, at least 2 months before, about that entrance at a meeting. I just can't remember when it was. I haven't researched it. But I brought it up then. I think you had 1 meeting, right, with staff? That's it. And that was left open-ended. So here we are down to this thing. Well, I put it on the agenda to say, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? We're no further ahead now. We didn't have any discussion tonight. You know, Mayor, here's what I want to leave you with. That little book that you use of Robert's Rules and that tight-fisted way you run the meetings, we need flexibility. You know, with our last mayor, Mayor Roger Bang, I got to tell you, he got my vote. That mayor got my vote to bring Plan B back to support the hotel and the bank. He got my vote to do the streetscape and the whole Vision Iowa project. Even though it made me sick to my stomach, the 25 million of it or whatever, 20 million of it. I supported the 2 buildings, but we got taken in there. I got to tell you, Mayor, he was a, what's the political thing they say? He could communicate. It wasn't all about his ego or his this is how it's going to be. I run the show, and that's the way we're going to do it. You know, he had the ability to talk to all of us and keep stuff alive and keep it open. And that's what he did to me. I gotta tell you, Mayor, you don't have the ability with me to do that because you're just too closed off. And this is my opinion, but you're just too hardcore and closed off and tight-fisted with the rules. And we need to be able to have some flexibility when we're talking. We're no longer, now it's my responsibility to go to Brent or Mark or get my 2 cents worth in. And like you said tonight, didn't you talk to your colleagues? Didn't you talk to staff? Well, yeah, I did. But that's only part of my job. The people I really count on talking to, Mayor, is the citizens. I've said it over and over in many years. The best ideas come from the citizens. Sometimes before the issue, sometimes after the issue. But that's where the best ideas come from. It's not necessarily my colleagues up here, or someone highly trained in engineering and this is how they see it. You know, there's not a lot of flexibility in that industry when we get down to it. There's not a lot of flexibility when we ask the finance director for more money. You know, he's pretty close to the vest. So things become political. That's why we pay taxes in America for representation. We get to elect that representation every 2 years or so. So I would hope that you would lighten up more. I don't see us being any further along. I don't know what we're going to talk about Tuesday night. I think we've set up a meeting with Jeff, Bill Angerman, and Mark Ram. You're our only chance to come up with something, a plan B, so to speak. And if you can't find that, then you get on the horn Tuesday and start calling council members again and say, this is what I need. Maybe you'll even be able to have a chance to talk to corporate by then too. But I'll be there for you to represent some of it. I can't promise you anything, but I'll be there and I'll be open-minded. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, we're adjourned.
Just one thing, best ideas come from citizens. That's
Right.
why we have a listening post.
That's right.
Thanks, Max, for saying that.
I didn't know. Let's do that. What happened?